So next video here, we're going to talk about conditioning. Conditioning is a little bit tougher topic to discuss because everybody's very different and sports are very different with regards to conditioning. Our genetics are very different. So, some people, it comes very easy to them, where other people, the conditioning aspect of their sport is a little bit tougher. For me personally, I was never very good at aerobic stuffs. I don't know why genetically. My body has an allergic reaction to it. So I was more, I more like the heavy lifts and that kind of stuff. So I really had to force myself to condition. And when I conditioned, it was just a lot of interval stuff. I never ever did long distance running. It was just a lot of interval stuff. And when it came time that the season came around, I could keep my own. And I remember we had to run through a trail, and that was our conditioning test, kind of who ended up first, second, third at the end of the trail. And, I do all right. I was never first by any means, but I do all right. I wasn't last. So, I think for you just got to find your niche with conditioning. So I did put some prescriptions in there. I kind of gave different ratios for each sport in terms of the conditioning. So there's a work to rest ratio. So the science is pretty clear that doing interval training for conditioning is probably the best way to go about it for athletes. So in the sports that you all are doing interval training, I'm not saying for all sports, but in the sports you guys are doing, interval training is a very good mode. Even soccer, soccer you can do, once a week. You could do like a long distance run if you want, maybe hockey as well. But I think you'd be surprised at actually how much time you're resting when you're playing and how much time you're being active. And a lot of times the activity is over assumed in the sporting arena. So there's quite a bit of rest while you're playing a game. So I think the interval stuff is the best way to go. I've had great success with it, and the research supports that as well. So in the work to rest ratios here, so volleyball, for instance, is 15 on, 15 off, because that's about the length of a rally. Rallies in volleyball can go 5 seconds. You can get some, I know you can get some for about 30 seconds and maybe 40, if you're pushing it. But, most of them, it's pretty quick. So we try to keep that tempo up when we're doing conditioning. Now with the there's two types of conditioning we're using. Well, first I'll go through finish the ratios here. So with basketball, we've got a 30-30. Hockey, we got a 45-45, which is going to simulate kind of the length of a shift. And then soccer, we got a 30-30. The soccer one I just got, Team USA, that's kind of what they do. So I was like, oh, that seems good enough to me. And as well with basketball, that's kind of been the understood norm for that sport as well, as 30 on, 30 off. So you're pretty good with 30-30. Even volleyball, if the 15-15 with the stride I'm going to get into, if the 15-15, you're like, this is just too fast of a go stop, do the 30-30. For sure. Same thing with hockey. If the 45-45 is that's going to be pretty tough at the beginning, especially when we do the shuttle work. Do 30-30. So you can't really go wrong with 30-30. You don't want to do a minute because this is too long of a rest. And then after 30-45, once you get to a minute, you're cycling towards the end of that anaerobic cycle. So we really want to make sure we're kind of staying in the middle of it, kind of thing. So that's that for the conditioning. So basically what I'm kind of saying is you got to kind of feel out what's best for you. So we have two types in conditioning. We have the stride work that we're going to do. So stride is basically just it's not a jog and not a sprint. It's halfway between. So it's a 75% kind of intensity deal. And with stride, you're going to just kind of go longer distance. So what you could do is get on the road or get in a field and run around the field. You don't want to change direction. You want to just kind of go linearly. And you would just go for, I think, 4 minutes. 4 minute is the first group of intervals. So you go 4 minutes. So let's just take basketball, for instance. So basketball will go 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 4 minutes. You take a 1 minute break, and then you go 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 4 minutes. And then that would be the end of your conditioning day. Now you can do longer if you're you're not getting really taxed by that. We'll do 5 or 6 minutes if you want. It's not a big deal. If you're doing more than half an hour, I think you might be kind of wasting your time. So I think if you just can do about half an hour, that's pretty good. If you do less than 10 minutes, I don't think that's enough, right? So we're striving for about 12 minutes here in the first mesocycle. If you want to do 15, that's great. It's going to go all the way up, I think, to 25 or so by the end of the summer. So just do your best with the conditioning. So again, we have the strides, which is 75%. It's linear. So you just basically stride for 30 seconds, then kind of walk, rest for another 30. We also have shuttles. So shuttles are the hard ones. So shuttles are full out. it's full out explosion. And this one, you're actually going to just kind of touch cones. So you're going to set out 2 cones, watch the video. We're going 10 meters in the first mesocycle. So you're just kind of basically touching the cones. It's much like the pro agility test that we do, where you got to touch the cone and change direction. So the shuttles are nice because a bit of change direction element, there's a bit of explosive elements. So it's a little bit more sports specific for you. That one's going to be tough. And that one, you need to make sure you're adhering to the prescription for the work to rest ratio, because that's really going to tax that system that you're going to be using in your sports. That's really important. And then once a week, if you want to go for a long run, that's fine. You know, if that's something you want to do, that's fine. If that's your ball of wax, but yeah, just make sure you're doing the 2 stride workouts a week and you're doing the 1 shuttle workout a week. So I think that's about it. I'm just going to look really quickly here with the conditioning. Yeah, I put in there you can increase the times if you want. So I laid out all the different times in there. So hopefully it's not too confusing. I reworked it a couple of times just to try to keep it clear. Just remember, you go for 4 minutes, you take a 1 or 2 minute walk rest, and then you go for 4 minutes, okay? Or you can bump that up to 5 or 6 minutes. So that's what that means in there. So have fun with your conditioning, you know, just do it, just do something, you know, just tax your system, and I'm sure you'll be fine, and we'll do well when we get back in the fall. Just gonna put a little add on here of something I just remembered when I hit the stop button there. So if you want to do like cross training, that's another good way to do conditioning. So that would be done on a stride day. So you wouldn't do that on a shuttle day. We got to use those shuttle days just for that sport specific change of direction, explosion system work. But on a stride day, if you want to do some cross training, so let's say you're a soccer player, right? And you want to go play some basketball, that's great. Or soccer, I understand you have leagues in the summer. You know, if you have a soccer game that night, that could be your conditioning. So conditioning, you know, the more sport specific you can make it, the better, right? So you can do that as well. So you could just place that in there, go play, but it's got to be intense, right? So you can't go play like a round of golf. That doesn't count, right? So nothing wrong with golf. It just doesn't get you in the conditioning shape that we're looking for our sports. So yeah, just you can do some. So like for instance, with volleyball, you could play sand, right? You could do some beach volleyball. So it's kind of a different sport, and that's a good conditioning for you. You know, hockey, you can play soccer, whatever you want to do. Again, sports like baseball, I'm not sure you're really getting the benefit from that. So it's got to be something where there's a pretty high anaerobic component, you know, like rollerblade hockey or something like that. So feel free to do that type of conditioning if you want. That works really well too.